This interview is brought to you in association with Rabobank.
Hello and welcome to another Rural Delivery online interview. In 2015, the Agri-Women's Development Trust celebrated its 5th year of operation, but perhaps more importantly, reached the milestone of having seen over 1,000 women through its programs. Lindy Nelson is the Trust's founder and executive director, and in January this year, she became a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to agriculture and women. Lindy, hello, and congratulations on your New Year's honour.
Thank you very much for that. It was a lovely acknowledgement, and a good acknowledgement for women and the part they play in agriculture, I think.
Now, I know when we were talking earlier, you sort of said, well, we've been going 5 years. It seems it's early days perhaps for an honour, but I just think it's awesome to see the establishment, let alone the growth of this, recognised early. You started in 2010, you put 11 women through programs. You've now got an alumni of around 1,300. What a ride.
Absolutely. And I think part of that acknowledgement and receiving the New Year's honours was around the transformation of the sector that's happened in that time via our programs and the women who have actually come through the programs. Not only transformational for them, but also for their farming partners.
Were you confident from the get-go that if you built it, they would come?
As a trust, we continue to do lots of research. So that research, designed and drove the design of the programs that we had in place, and it was the culture part as well. So what's quite unique about the trust is the culture in which we work, which is very much around supporting women, not only on program, but after the program, creating the right environment for them to learn and giving them the right things that they need to learn. And we talked a little bit about this before. So it's not only the technical skills, but also the intra and interpersonal skills around leadership and how you build and sustain teams, your farming partnership, that sort of thing.
Let's talk about how you're doing that, the actual courses and the learning that you offer. It starts with something called First Steps, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yep. So we have First Steps, which is our 2-day program, which is all about women actually discovering their own potential. And that's building lots of confidence. A lot of women are going on from First Steps back into their communities, reinvigorated to start a community project, back into their farming business, looking at themselves differently. Then they can go on to do Understanding Your Farming Business, which is now a 4-month program, so 1 day every month. And this year it's really exciting. The last day we're going to bring the partners in. We've done a program for the Dairy Women's Network called Pathways, which is a 6-month program, and of course our Escalator, which is a 12-month program. So there is a program for a woman in agriculture for every stage of her career.
And there's 4 pillars here. So apart from those core skills, the intrapersonal and interpersonal skills, you've got governance, leadership, and business. How does they break down across those courses?
I think they're all combined, and my quest is for people to understand leadership at a deeper level. I think in agriculture we're very focused on leadership has been a role, but actually leadership is a series of behaviours. And if we sort of look at it really, it's about that intrapersonal, which is managing your own behaviour. The interpersonal is building those relationships with a variety of people. So that's within your business, whether that's your farming partner, your bank manager, your accountant, and building and sustaining teams. And when we start to think of leadership and we think of it in terms of behaviours, that is the transformational bit. That is what's going to drive agriculture and change it.
You've also got a focus, and you underline that women can make a unique contribution. I wonder if you could talk us through how that happens and what some of those aspects are that are so unique about a woman's offering to a farm business.
The unique offering that women would have is probably there's a gender bit, that we think and see things differently, we communicate differently. There's masses of global research around that. Women often, if they're engaged in the right way, are really good with the relationship stuff. And seeing stuff that maybe the farming partner may not necessarily be recognising if you give them the right skills. Of course, things like finances, they're not gender specific. Anybody who gets the right skill development around those can do that sort of stuff. The other part of the woman piece is the partnership piece. So when you have a strong farming partnership and you have both partners with the right skills and the right knowledge and engaged in their business, that is where you're going to get a lift in performance, a lift in the bottom line. The whole thing changes. So that unique contribution is getting women engaged and contributing with the right skills to their business.
Some parts of the industry, dairy specifically, are going through a pretty stressful time at the moment. Is there any way at the moment, and when times are tough, when you are under that stress, that you're seeing a greater contribution from women, or where this, something, a real standout skill can come to the fore?
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, particularly in the dairy sector at the moment, I think there are a lot of women there that are shouldering an enormous amount of the burden. So not only are they keeping their families together, they're actually keeping their farming business together. A real engagement, particularly with the Dairy Women's Network, that they are reaching out to women alongside us, developing specific programs to help them over this period. But certainly the stories we hear via Facebook, which is that phenomenal media, and social medias, you can see the change of women's roles, really stepping up, supporting their businesses, understanding the stress that families are under.
And how's that translating into a community view? Because people's lives don't start and end in their own farm.
I've only got anecdotal stories of what you see, particularly in the dairy sector. But if it's a dairying community, I think obviously the whole community is under stress. So if we can give support tools to women who take them back into the families, then that not only helps their business, but actually obviously transfers back out into the community.
Are they specific skills that emerge through the courses that are designed to help cope with that sort of environment, or are they there anyway?
Definitely communication tools and strategies. Often we're not taught those things, and often in a farming business, you've got a love affair and a business partnership that's happening under the same roof. So we're often not necessarily thinking about corporate communication tools and strategies, or how do you have those difficult conversations where World War II doesn't erupt, and that we get the right outcomes happening. So the biggest thing is really understanding communication from a leadership perspective and bringing that back into a farming family situation and having good conversations that deliver really good business results and really clear strategies and making those timely decisions.
Besides what women can learn directly from the courses, what do they learn from each other when they're given this new environment, which perhaps they may not have had the opportunity to interact in this way before?
I think you place them in the right environment and you place everybody else around them, which is their cohort, their peers in that environment, and then you watch the magic happen. So depending on what program they are on, we see this building of the cohort. So even first steps, it's 4 months of mastermind groups. After that, they're supporting one another post the program. If you look at our Escalator alumni, they are now 5 years on. There's probably not a day that goes by that one of the Escalator alumni, they're now a 60-strong woman, are not reaching out to other women across the sector or fellow alumni to actually solve problems. So there's that wonderful thing that women have done for centuries, is when they form groups and the groups are formed with like-minded people, you actually really see the magic occur.
And within those farming relationships, I imagine you're talking about a force multiplier effect here. You must see tremendous growth that happens because you're engaging with 50% of the business that wasn't necessarily perhaps being tapped to its full potential.
We're starting to see some of those stories, and the thing that thrills me, so we hear stories back from women about improved financial conditions on farm. The strategic partners, like the ANZ Beef and Lamb, are seeing transformational stories. So they're going back into businesses a year after some of our programs and saying, this is a different business I'm looking at. Everything is in place, the budgeting, the cash flows, the relationship, the connection with accountants. So that's a fantastic story. For me, what I really love to see is women who I know have come on our programs a couple of years ago. They now are appearing in the sector, and I'll give you 2 really good examples. Lindy Wyeth for Wairarapa. A few years ago, she left her hairdressing business, went back onto the farm. A number of things changed for Lindy. She came on a couple of our programs. She's a real storehold and a really positive influence in the sector now. Another couple down the south, Ro and Carl McDermott, are now in the farming newspapers. And so you're starting to see this couple picture emerging where women are actually, I think, not only growing their own confidence, but they're growing their partner's confidence. And that's really transformational.
What about the next generation? You're setting up here a level of awareness of the role of women in farming businesses, which is going to change the environment that young women on farm will grow up in and what they will expect in the future. Are you seeing the start there of this having an effect on the next generation potentially?
Yes, the beginnings. We're seeing mother and daughters enrolling in programs, which is great. And one of those is social science things, which I've also done some research in Australia and looked at what happens to farming families in repeated droughts. And you often found that those children were growing up in those formative years in those families were not going farming. So with us and our supporting women now is we're trying to stop that. So those better communication strategies so the children aren't feeling that stress. So they're more likely to think about farming as a future if we shore up what's actually happening now.
So what does the next 5 years look like?
Probably retirement for me, I imagine, from the trust, but not from doing things in the leadership space because I absolutely love that. I'll be, I think 7 years as CEO is time for some new blood. Who knows? For the trust, I think it will just get stronger and stronger. I mean, we've got a 5-year goal of what we want to see, and that's, getting probably 10 or 15% of the sector actually have gone through all our programs, and really that'll make some fundamental changes.
It'll be huge. Look, Lindy, myself and all of us here at Rural Delivery, we really salute what you and the Trust have achieved. It's fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today. Congratulations again on your honour, and we'll encourage people to go and check out your website to learn more about what they can get from the Trust. Thank you again.
This interview was brought to you in association with Rabobank.